Welcome to Grief Heals, the podcast that explores how grief heals. Join us as we consider how grief invites love within ourselves, our communities, our world, our histories, and how it is that grief heals. I'm Lisa Michelle Zega here with Eric Simpson. Hello. Welcome to a new recording of Grief Heals, where we talk about how it is that grief heals, right? And how it is that embracing our grief is healing. So it is going to be another solo episode. I'm not able to be with Eric this weekend, and so I am recording in advance. So much in here, and I was doing a grounding exercise right before I hit record, and now I can feel so much energy alive in my body that I almost feel like, I need to take a minute and do it again. But alas, I am going to trust the process. So let's see. I have recently been in Eugene, Oregon, and oh my goodness, it is so beautiful there. It was my first time in Eugene, and based on the work I was doing there, it really inspired the podcast that I'm going to go ahead and do today. But I had an incredible time, and I got to get some walking in, and I found a gourmet ice cream shop, and I played this game with myself of like, how low can I keep my eating budget? And I didn't do it till I spent, what was it, like 20 something dollars my first day. And then from that meal, I made 2 other meals out of it. And then there was a market across the street, kind of like a Whole Foods, and it might have even been called Whole Market. Is that what it was? Anyway, and I could order like in their deli section, and I just made a game of it, and I was being able to eat for $5 each time. And I think my entire eating budget for 4 days came out to, it was $30. And then there was another 20 at the airport. And I was able to split that meal so that it afforded me my lunch and dinner today. So kind of crazy, but I have fun gamifying different parts of life. So that's that. Oh, and I read a book I want to recommend. It is by Chris Cleave. It is called Little Bee. And this book rocked my world. So today, I just want to dedicate this episode to the group of people that I was with in Eugene, because they do challenging work that is often misunderstood and not really embraced. And then it's also, when like they're doing difficult, challenging work, and every individual within the organization has their own lived experience and, stuff that comes up for them. And also they lost a coworker. So with that, I was thinking about, they've just been so heavy on my heart. And I was thinking, wow, what did I not share that I wished we would have just had more time to engage? So I will start by saying that they work with the most vulnerable in the population, and people experiencing chronic homelessness with a lot of challenges and a lot of high risks. And they run a very, very low barrier. Oh my gosh, incredible shelter. And I will say I am in awe. It was such an honor. Just thinking about it, it is alive in my body right now. It was such an honor to witness them. and the work that they do and get to meet people in the population that they serve and just see how incredibly, it just sounds funny in my brain to say what I'm about to say, but they were so accessible and treated our fellow people like people. And to see it in action was really quite incredible. And it wasn't just, I've worked in homeless services and I applaud and commend all the people that I've worked with over the years. So it wasn't that like I haven't seen people treating people like people before. That was a lot of people's. It was every single way that they were thinking about like creating these beautiful living spaces with carpet and comfortable couches and plush pillows and centers like if you went to the very best preschool where it's making space for here is place for quiet and here is a place for art, and oh, if you're having a hard time, here's a place that honors you, that gives you place to be alone. And the way that privacy was respected, and anyone that has an animal, like there's a place for your animal. And it wasn't about like, you've got to reach all of our standards to stay here. You have to be sober or clean, or, people that have houses don't have to be sober and clean, right? We don't say, oh, you have an alcohol problem, but you have the means to keep a roof over your head. Well, you're not allowed to have a roof because, you drink a little too much alcohol and like, we don't do that, right? But why do we do it with, calm down, Lisa. Anyway. And then I know from the work that I do, like not everybody gets it. And sometimes the people closest, right, don't get it. So recognizing that is likely their experience too, where when they go home, there might not be the refuge or the understanding or the embrace of what they're doing all day. And then the thought that one of their own has left, passed from the life that we know, right, in this fleshly body for another. And so I was just thinking, okay, what would I want to say to people who do challenging work that's often misunderstood, who have their own lived experience and personal challenges, and work is a reminder that you've experienced loss. And some of the things that I know is that when we experience loss, it's like other losses that we're carrying that maybe we're not present to also come and make themselves known. I know that the experience of loss affects our bodies. It might affect our sleep, might affect our eating habits. It definitely interrupts the normal rhythm of what we're expecting within our own physiology. And I know that sometimes when feelings emerge that feel overwhelming, especially because of the kind of sanitized, industrialized, neatly packaged, highly productive societies that we live in, that having something that feels as messy, wobbly and big as grief can be really, really disconcerting. And the tendency is often to package it down, suppress it, so that we can show up the way we're used to being. And that grief often disrupts that and makes that difficult. And then, so I know too, like with that kind of work, it can often, it's all encompassing too, right? So it really expands us to our edges, and that can provide a distraction until it doesn't. So what would I want each individual there? What would I want you, right? Just imagining that their experience isn't completely unique, to know. And I would want you to know that, first of all, however you are is okay. And that it's okay to not feel okay. I would want you to know that, even though we have been sort of taught to believe, or we've absorbed the idea that grief is bad and that we want to get as far away from it as possible, that grief maybe lives on a line, and say grief is the starting place and the goal is you want to run as far away as possible and get to that happy place. So let's not talk about grief. Let's not bring it up. Let's not name it. Let's all just kind of quietly pretend that that's not there. And the thing is, I would want you to know that grief doesn't live on a line like that, that is actually a paradigm that can't work because it's built on a false framework. That to touch our grief, if we touch our grief, it also gives us access to touching our joy. And in fact, that grief and joy are connected, and they don't live on a line where one is far from the other. They live in a circle, and they meet along the circle again and again and again. And that grief and love kiss. They continue to kiss, so that, as the poet Mark Nepo says, everything can be beautiful and I can be so sad. And then as that same poem, Adrift, ends, I can be so sad while everything is beautiful. Just take a minute. Let's breathe, right? Recognizing we breathe the same air. We don't have to rush. That grief and joy meet in this circle again and again and again, just like spring and summer meet. And they even meet underground in the dark, where the winter and the deadness of winter is making space and nourishing the life that is going to emerge from underground. I would also, in order to be with ourselves and to allow the process of grief, it's necessary, right, to have a neutral space for that. And so what do I even mean by a neutral space? Well, can we allow whatever is, just the reality of whatever you're experiencing, I'm experiencing, to just be? Because what often happens, what we're experiencing, and often it's sensations in the body, and they feel uncomfortable, and immediately the brain goes and labels that as bad. And what do we want to do with the bad things? We want to get them away from us. So again, we either suppress, we repress, we move away from. A neutral space is a space where everything is allowed, because it's not good or it's not bad, it's not right or it's not wrong, it's neutral. And so when there are sensations in the body that don't feel good or they don't feel comfortable because they are foreign, or like just even for me to get comfortable with when my heart starts to race faster, usually I want to label that, oh, that's anxiety and that's bad, and I got to get away from that. Yeah, I just want to slow down and say, well, is that true? Do I know that that's true? Because when I'm believing that that's true, then I do want to get away from it. And I tend to think there's something wrong with me. But if I could just notice, this is what neutrality does. It welcomes us to notice. Well, look at that. I can feel a quick thumping, maybe even like the spin cycle of a washing machine. I don't go and label it bad when it's spinning fast in my washer. So could I just observe my own internal experience like I observe the washing machine when it's spinning fast? It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's spinning. I feel that inside me. Oh, I feel a lot of movement. Oh, yeah, it's moving quicker. Oh, I think there's some heat. Yeah, there's some heat in my shoulder space. Oh, I feel, oh, it's almost like as if there's like a brick sitting on my chest. Well, if I see a brick sitting on the ground, I don't automatically say, oh, well, that's bad. The brick shouldn't be there. I'm just like, there's a brick. It's on the ground, right? So neutrality allows us to notice whatever is there without labeling it, without calling it good or bad and wanting to rush towards it. Like, oh, I got to chase that. That's good. I'm going to chase, woo, run. Or, oh, that's bad. I'm going to, escape it. I'm going to run away from it. Either way, I'm running. Either way, to just be in the present moment and acknowledge what is, right? So neutrality is just the invitation. Can we just be with it, whatever it is, my body, the person that I'm talking to, a situation that is occurring, right? Like just whatever it is, and label it in a way that we would just describe the colors on a painting, right? If I didn't know that these are oak trees sprawling in the sunshine in front of me, well, what would I say? I would say, oh, okay, well, there's something brown. Oh, there's several brown, you know, I don't know, what would I label them? Statues? We're always drawing on some form of mental model, something, but I would do my best to just label it as it is without all the stories that I bring from my history. So I would want you to know that however you're feeling, whatever you're experiencing, whatever sensations are going on, they're not a problem. I would want you to know that grief and joy live in a continuum, in a circle, and kiss continually. I would want you to know that, what is it? That they kiss continually, they live on a circle. There was something else that's eluding me right now, not a problem. I would want you to know that to be with it from this neutral standpoint where I am an observer, and thoughts, especially thoughts from my history, ways that I label things, ways that I analyze or assess the situation, they're going to come. Of course they're going to come. And then I'm opening my palms and I'm releasing those thoughts. If the thoughts were floating in a river and they made their way up to my palms, and I notice them and I simply set them right back into the river. I don't need to hold on to them. I don't need to reject them. I don't need to throw them. I just just release them right back, and then continue to observe both the sensations in my body, the thoughts in my mind. I would want you to know that there is a lot of support, particularly in just noticing, like orienting to your space, whether it's noticing the way that the weight of your body feels in your shoes or on your feet, the way your body is connecting to the environment around you. There is so much support in just smelling what you can smell or seeing what you can see, feeling, right? Maybe a soft blanket. And also knowing what kind of external resources that you have. Like, do you have a pet? And what's it like to, to caress your animal? And what does that feel like? And what do you notice inside your body? Like, these kinds of noticings can really help calm our nervous system. So it's not just having the warm cup of tea and feeling it on your hands. That's an external resource. It's also beginning to notice, ooh, when I'm holding this cup of tea, what does that feel like inside my body? Right? And just noticing those things. And this isn't like, I'm not saying, hey, go out and meditate for an hour. Particularly when you're grieving, I want you to know these are bite-size tastes of the present moment. And as with anything, when we give that level of attention and awareness, say for 30 seconds, and then maybe we do that just 30 seconds and then we expand it, but what this is doing is giving comfort in our nervous system so that we have more resource internally to navigate whatever we're going through. I would say that sharing with someone that you love and trust what's going on for you, and even putting parameters around it, just saying to someone, hey, I'd like to talk about how I'm feeling in relation to, and naming what that is, and saying, and I'd just like you to listen, and maybe I'll talk for 5 or 10 minutes. Are you willing to listen without interrupting? And then when I'm done, maybe give me a hug if I want it, or, a squeeze of the hand, or just a nod of like, I see you, right? Like, that's a way. One practice my coach introduced us to recently was leaving a stone, right? And if you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do, it's like, hey, leave a stone. Well, one way of identifying or leaving a stone in advance is saying, hey, when I finish talking after that 5 or 10 minutes, I would just like you to look me in the eye, and I'll look you in the eye, and we will gently nod our heads at one another. And that will be the I witness you, right? Or we could give people words. I see you. And that's it. And then we go and we do our own thing. Another thing is just to take time to be with yourself. And this might be 10 minutes a day, just for the kind of noticing that I was talking about, or maybe even to journal. And then if you are willing to read that journal entry to another person that you already feel safe with, that you already have relationship with, and you can give them the boundary, right? Like, hey, here's how I would like you to respond. I would like you to simply say, thank you for trusting me with this information, or thank you for sharing. I see you. And then that's it. But the providing ways for ourselves to notice whatever is within us, right? Without judgment, keeping that neutral space, because really, genuinely, for any change to happen, compassion is non-negotiable. And compassion, we often think of compassion like warm, fuzzy feelings. Compassion is more like an attitude, and it is an attitude of neutrality, an attitude of non-judgment. I can see, I can hear, I release the judgment. I'm with what is how it is, right? And Byron Katie, I'll just mention her briefly because she is the one that said, she's got this way of being with reality where you take yourself through a series of questions. Okay, is that true? Whatever, when we're having these thoughts, these judgments, is it true? Can I know for certain that it's true? How am I feeling and acting when I'm believing that it's true? Is there any sane reason to hold this thought if it's causing me to act and feel in ways I don't prefer, right? And then she's got this whole approach of like turning it around. So I'm just going to mention that briefly because that's where that practice for me comes from. What else? And so there's these agreements that we use in healing circles. And I would want everyone doing challenging work, having a history of your own, who's lost one of your own. I would also support this neutrality with the agreements we use in the healing circle. So that would be to treat with kindness and respect. Whatever you're going through, whatever you're thinking, to treat with kindness and respect. Listen to yourself, to others with compassion and curiosity. Honor that you have a unique way to heal. Your way is your way. And there is no one out there that gets to tell you what that way is. And when you're supporting someone and you recognize it's natural that you would have the compulsion to advise, fix, or save. We even have the compulsion to advise, fix, or save ourselves. So we release that. We hold our self, our story, our experience as sacred. Even if, right, like in this organization, they all lost the same person, but they didn't, they're not all the same people. And none of them had the same relationship with this person. So each of them is going through a very unique, though shared experience. So honoring that your way is your way, and that person's way is that person's way. Okay. And then trusting. And this one's, that we have the guidance that we need within. And in a culture that moves so fast and is so overstimulated with cell phones, and we can be reached at any time, and televisions and radios and cars and fast moving, recognizing that the inner wisdom is accessed through silence. And see, our grief often disrupts our routine and creates more silence than we're familiar with. And so it can be very, very uncomfortable, and nothing has gone wrong. There's so much more I would want you to know. When the work you do is challenging, when you have your own story and your own series of losses, and you've also lost one of your own. And I think that this today, I'm just going to let this be how we close out the podcast. So if you would take a breath with me, just noticing your inhale and your exhale. We'll do one more with a sigh, inhaling through the nose. Exhaling with a sigh. You might want to rub your shoulders. I know that's what I'm doing, backwards and forwards. And if you're open, I'm going to ask that you spread wide your arms, not if you're driving, but this is for a goodbye hug. And then come on in. Oh, and feel the squeeze of your own hands behind your shoulders. appreciate yourself for taking this time. Until we meet again. Mwah!
You've been listening to Grief Heals with Lisa Michelle Zega. The podcast is produced by me, Eric Simpson, in association with Jump Up and Down Productions. Music by Kendalian, Drunken Nights to Sunday Mornings, and Stefan Carlin, A Calming Ocean, A Common Notion. If you would like more information about the work Lisa does, point your browsers to legityou.com. That's LEGITYOU. Lisa can also be reached at lisamichelle@legityou.com. This has been a Jump Up and Down production.